Hello and welcome along to Clare FM's Sideline View. It's Derry Clinch with you for the next hour. Coming up on the show, we'll be looking ahead to Clare's National Camogie League Division 1B showdown with Dublin at UPMC Nowlan Park on Sunday afternoon. We will reflect on Clare's National Hurling League final win over Dublin in the company of Tommy Guilfoyle, with the countdown to championship now standing at just 9 sleeps. Alan Troy will be along with Greyhound Focus, and we also have the latest part of the More Than a Club series with a focus on Bodyke. We begin this evening though with Camogie, where Clare will go to UPMC Nowlan Park on Sunday afternoon to face Dublin in the Division 1B final. It's the second year running that Clare have been in this position, losing out narrowly to Antrim 12 months ago. Ahead of that game, Clare FM's Dara O'Grady has been speaking with our analyst Anne-Marie McGann.
A huge game coming this weekend, and I suppose similar to the hurlers, the main objective would have been to get promotion, but for the Camogie side it was to get to the final, and they've done that now, and obviously the focus is, I suppose, firmly on getting a result. And look, the positivity that would bring to the panel and the management would be huge, but being the flagship team, you want to see them being successful, and hopefully that they'll get over the line on Sunday.
Played already, of course. The first game of the campaign came back to draw with two late scores that day, and I suppose there's a lot that's changed since then.
Yeah, there is. I suppose 113 to 16 points that day above in Abbottstown in Dublin, and what I would have taken away from that game was that it was a very physical battle, and I've no doubt that I suppose this weekend coming is going to be very similar. I would suspect there'll probably be a couple of changes on both sides, and maybe a few positional changes that will come, and that has probably come about, over the league campaign, where people have found their feet, and we've had a very successful Division 1B campaign, and I suppose it's been building now to this, and looking down Dublin again, everybody will have learned from that first game along with all the others in the league, and it's about putting that all together and bringing that experience to the fore, especially after, I suppose, the disappointment of last year. That would have been a big, I suppose, motivation in getting there again this year, and hopefully they'll be able to right that wrong.
Yeah, and you look at the character the squad have shown over the course of the campaign, that I suppose comeback to draw with Dublin the first day, and then to get that late goal to win over Limerick, they've got that never say die attitude.
Yeah, they do. Look, and Lorna McNamara scored a fantastic late on a couple of scores there in the Limerick game, but it gave them an opportunity then kind of to rest a few players in the down and Offaly game, and they got 2 good wins there, whilst also giving a number of players a bit of game time, and I think that has been a really positive for the league campaign for Clare. A lot of different girls have got a lot of game time, and I think it'll be a hard task for the management to put out the starting 15, but they'll back everyone that gets that jersey, and it has become an important aspect of, it's not the starting 15 anymore. It's about those girls that are coming on, and a number of them that will be on the subs bench will have a huge impact on the game when they come on Sunday. And it's about, look, there's a great blend there in the panel this year between youth and experience. Like you've Clare Heher, the Dailies, they're there for a number of years. I suppose that to a number of them that have made the breakthrough over the years, maybe Sinead O'Keefe, Niamh Mull, and then you have Maeve Malay, who's had an outstanding campaign in her first year at senior. So it seems to be boding well for the weekend, but I'm sure that Dublin won't be any walkover, and they have a really strong and physical team.
Yeah, that blend and contrast is interesting, because you have, I suppose, Lorna Mack coming back into the team as a known quantity of how good she is, but when you've got these youngsters coming into the team as well, it's really exciting.
Look, Lorna has been fantastic. Obviously, she had a couple of injuries over a few years, but I think she scored 28, 29 points already in the league campaign. So she has been pivotal in, getting Clare to the league final. But it's also important that everybody else, I suppose, rows in now. If anything were to happen on Sunday, maybe Dublin would mark Lorna out of it, that you will get other girls to stand up. Jennifer Daly, Andrea O'Keefe have been working up and down the field immensely. Zian Spillane has been getting on the scoreboard. Maeve Malay, all those girls and the backs have been outstanding. So it's about kind of blending that youth and experience, and I suppose keeping everything cool. Whatever Dublin will throw at them, what will be will be. But it's about Clare keeping their head and getting the scoreboard ticking over.
Yeah, and you mentioned to this point it's been a great success, the only unbeaten team in Division 1B, and when you look at the quality that Dublin, Limerick and Wexford as well have, to have a 0 in the loss column is fairly impressive at this stage.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's probably the most positive thing that has come out of the flagship team this year. We seem to have got a really good panel together. Everybody has bought into it. There seems to be serious emphasis put on strength and conditioning, about the way they want to play as a panel, and as a starting 15 and everybody that comes on. And I think that has been really pivotal in getting them there to the final. But as I said, Dublin, have seasoned players. Aisling Maher is back. Aisling O'Neill will be there as well. There's a number of those. The Gannons, the girls, they're playing there. So they're not going to be any pushover. And if you look back on the first game against Dublin, it was really physical, and I would nearly expect it to be another step up this weekend, because everybody's had 4, 5, 6 games behind them now at this stage. So it's going to be a really important game. And I just think that if Clare can keep looking at the scoreboard, keep putting over the scores, take the goal chances when they come, they'll be successful.
Yeah, and taking the goals is something they've done particularly well over the entire campaign. They 2 the last day against Offaly. That was a fairly decent performance and a good win. And I suppose they've had 3 weeks of training since that game as well to put right anything that the management might have seen that possibly went against them that day.
Yeah, and I think they probably would have looked back on all the games and a number of opportunities. Even if you go right back to the start in the very first game, the Dublin game, we had 2 open goal opportunities that just didn't stick for us. And, as the campaign has gone on, we scored 3 goals against Limerick, we had 3 against Down, we had 2 against Offaly. It seems to be building a bit, and it's about taking those opportunities when it come Sunday in the 1B final. And I think anyone that takes to the field, they'll have to be razor sharp in taking those scores, and particularly in the backs, they'll have to be touch tight, because if Dublin get a run on us, they will look for the juggler straight away. So it's important to everybody just keep the cool, get to the ball first, and focus on what their task is for the 60 minutes of the game.
You touched on it there already, that they'll be out to avenge the defeat in last year's 1B final, and I suppose if they did win and get that promotion to 1A, it'd be a great launchpad for the Munster Championship as well.
Yeah, it will. And I suppose that experience of that kind of loss last year will hurt a number of players that obviously went out against Antrim and they weren't able to get the win. But that, I suppose, that will act as a bit of motivation. And, Clare, as far as I'm concerned, belong in the 1A division. And the 1B has served, similar to what the Hurl has been, it has served its purpose. They've got a great panel together. They've brought in a number of players who have, made their mark on this. And it has worked well for them. But Clare Camogie deserves to be in the 1A and competing against the best, and that's what you want for this team. And I suppose it's a good build up, as we're heading into the Munster Championship and the All Ireland campaign. But we've also had a number of games in the under 23. A number of those senior girls have been playing on both, so they've been having they've had a lot of practicing games, and it has only stood to them then when they've gone out with the senior panel. So in fairness, in all round, it seems to be going really well. And just, I suppose, the cherry on the top will be the win against Dublin and getting that bit of silverware back to Clare.
Yeah, and just an overall big picture, I know something it's Eugene Foodie has been hammering home over the course of the year as well, that it's just vital, I suppose, going forward for Clare Camogie to be in 1A and to be up against the real top tier teams in the country. Yeah,
and I don't think you can learn very much, no disrespect to maybe Offaly or Down or anything like that. We need to be playing the Corks, Tips, Kilkenny, Galway. We need to be playing all those to see where we really stand. We have learned from the league, but you put yourself in a test when you're playing the top teams in the country, and that's where Clare need to be. And I think the bit of positivity, if we get over the line, that'll come back into the team and the management. And you want to see them be successful, and I suppose that'll be a bit of motivation then as they head into the Munster campaign, that they have that national bit of silverware in their pocket, and they'll be able to take on anyone as they come in front of them.
And I suppose they've shown it last year as well in Croke Park, although they lost that day. They've shown that they can go toe to toe with these so-called bigger sides.
Yeah, they did, but I suppose it was a different year, a different kind of setup, a different kind of management, and I suppose a collective panel together. Whereas this year it seems to be flowing really well. Okay, they got to the quarterfinal last year against Waterford. They weren't hugely successful in that campaign, even though they did get to the quarterfinal. But it just shows that maybe things have changed this year. They've been able to bring it back together, and I think this league has served really well for them to get a bit of momentum. I think that getting the win on Sunday will be hugely beneficial to the panel as they head into their Munster campaign a week later.
Yeah, we'll just finish on that keyword momentum. As we've mentioned already, there's a 0 in the loss column so far, and if they got to Monday morning and there was still a 0 for the year, they'd be ever so delighted.
Yeah, they would. And I suppose, look, whatever team you are, whatever management or whatever county you're part of, everybody wants to have some kind of national, campaign or medal win behind them. So it'll be really important to those girls. I know, being the flagship team, they want to win and they want to be that successful team in the county. And I think the positivity that will bring back to that collective group as a whole in the management, but also back to as far as Clare Camogie, you're seeing your mainstay team winning, and I think that will only prove, a positive thing as we're I suppose joining everything together now as a county in terms of development, in terms of the under 23s and the minor and the senior team getting new sponsorship on board. All that seems to be flowing really well. And I suppose the cherry on the top will be getting over Dublin on Sunday, hopefully in UPMC Nowlan Park.
Now, delighted to have Darren Murphy with us to look ahead to this National League Division 1B final. Darren, I suppose it's coming into sharp focus now. I know we spoke in the park after the game the last day. How have things gone since?
Good, yeah. I suppose we've a week and a half of training done since then and another week and a half to go, so getting there now slowly but surely. But no, training's going really well. Everyone's looking forward to it and is up for it, and then you've girls battling away for places as well, which is always a good complaint.
Yeah, and I suppose now that there's a new focus, I mean, all along it was a case of keep the momentum going, pick up the points, but now it's a very, very narrow focus, a national final, so I'd say things will start to get really, really concentrated.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah, and obviously if we win, we're back up to 1A and you'll be up with the likes of Galway and Cork and them again, so that's definitely our aim anyway, and obviously it's Dublin's aim as well. They only came down last year and they'll be looking to go back up, so I suppose we have two just really focused teams that will want to win on Sunday week.
And I suppose that's a really interesting element that Clare just fell short in that final last year against Antrim up in Abbottstown, and as you say, Dublin came back down. So I mean that bypassing each other, both will be very, very tight here. There won't be much in it.
No, definitely not. And like we played Dublin a bit over the last few years, and obviously we played them in the first round of the league, and it was a draw. They're just a really good physical team and well organised. So we'll have to definitely bring our A game to win it anyway. And if we don't, I suppose we probably won't win it on today. So we'll just be starting with the intensity that we'll need, and we'll have to keep that up for the whole game.
And I suppose, like, given that they were the closest team, that obviously you drew one every other game, but like to keep those levels improving, to be getting up to 1A, to be testing yourselves, like we saw with the win for Antrim over Cork, for example, like what that's going to do for their development. You know, from Clare's perspective, it's getting back into that top 6 or 7.
Yeah, definitely that's the aim, I suppose, in league and championship, is to be in the top 6 or 7 teams in the country. I suppose last year we had lost the league final, but we got to the All-Ireland quarter-final for the first time in a few years. And that was probably a really big step for Clare Camogie. And when you sit down at the start of the year and you're going through your goals for the year, that's always one of them, is to get to play in Croke Park or get to play in an All-Ireland quarter-final, get to play in a league final. So I suppose we're in the league final now, and hopefully we can go on and win it.
Maybe it's a little mini look ahead to championship. I know your focus will be on the silverware and promotion, but I suppose for Clare to lay down a marker and say, here we are, we silverware on the board, and we know how the championship is structured, might that be a little kind of psychological advantage?
Yeah, it probably would be. Like, we'll be playing Dublin definitely 3 times this year. They're in our group again for championship, so I suppose you'd definitely much rather be playing them in championship, having beat them in the league final, than be going in after losing to them. And if we did get the win, it would definitely be a big psychological boost for the next time we play them.
And there does seem to be a really good mood around Clare Camogie. Like we saw the under-23s at the weekend really grinding out a victory against Antrim. Very difficult conditions in Ina, but really put the head down to get over the line. And that thing of getting over the line consistently, that can only be a positive one. Yeah,
definitely. I think that has definitely been a big positive this year. Like in years gone by, we probably would have lost the way up in Dublin in the first round of the league, or like you said, the 23s, they could have lost. But I suppose it's just in the last 10 minutes that girls, like, they know exactly what the game plan is, which probably helps. So anyone that comes on knows exactly what they have to do, and obviously there's a lot of work going into fitness and stuff like that, and that helps us to drive it on in the last few minutes of games as well.
And I suppose you're in a position to maybe comment on this, or you've experienced it. Like, you're around a while. Obviously, you had a little sojourn, a little break, and you're back to it again. But like, how much have you seen standards improving, I suppose, and expectations then going up as well? Because if the resources are going in, then the outcomes kind of have to match it.
Yeah, no, the standards definitely are going up. Like, even this year's great to have Pat O'Donnell on board for the sponsorship, and like, it might just sound like a small thing, but it's absolutely massive for Clare Camogie. And I suppose it's great that the girls and the hurlers are going out with the same jerseys on, and then it does help to drive up the standard as well. Like, even just training, you're going to training and you're doing video analysis, or you're looking at other teams and you're looking at yourself and stuff. So standards are definitely going up every year.
And I suppose it's important to maintain them as well, that it doesn't become just a novelty thing that's done for a year or two and things slip back. It's up to everybody now to push to make this normal.
Yeah, no, definitely the last few years, like, there's a big push made and it has been kept. The standards have been the same and probably gone up a small bit even. So I suppose, yeah, it is hard, but it has to be done, I think, just for boys and girls to be treated the same, I suppose.
And even that promotional video that we saw for the launch of the new O'Neill's jersey, which is class and is going to be a big seller, I think. But I suppose you say it's a small thing. Like Zian was the Clare Camogie representative on it. She's actually the first one featured in the video, and then it pans around to everybody else. Clare is in it as well, and the lads are all there. So it makes a big difference to have that kind of unity of purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Like, kids, I suppose if they're going out to buy a jersey, it's great that they can just buy one jersey, and it's the same for the Camogie, the football and the hurlers. No, it's definitely a big positive, and I suppose a big thanks to Pat O'Donnell for doing that for us.
Yeah, and hopefully that continues, as you say. I know we're speaking to you today from the launch of the finals down in Nowlan Park, and like to have the game on in such a brilliant hurling venue. I mean, there's pictures all around there of Kilkenny greats of the past. There's a real aura about the place, and it being with the 1A should bring a big crowd as well. So fantastic to have that platform.
Yeah, definitely, and I suppose it is just about promoting the game. So at least if you have two finals on the one day, people might come and watch the two of them instead of having them in separate venues. And like you're saying, Nowlan Park, it's a great venue. It's a lovely pitch and tight enough as well. So hopefully there'll be a good atmosphere down there and a good Clare crowd on today.
And that's the views there of both Anne-Marie McGann and Darren Murphy ahead of Sunday's game in UPMC Nowlan Park. That one is set for a 12:15 start. More to come here on the show. Do stay tuned. And you're very welcome back to the show. Well, in a week's time, we will be in the middle of having an in-depth look ahead to Clare's Munster Senior Hurling Championship campaign, as that opener against Waterford is now looming on the horizon. Clare will come into the game as the Division 1B National League champions after seeing off a stern test from Dublin in Limerick last weekend. Clare FM analyst Tommy Guilfoyle has been speaking with Clare FM's Darragh O'Grady to reflect on that game and where Clare stand after the overall league campaign.
A situation at one stage where Clare looked like they were in a comfortable position to go on and win the game, but I suppose look at credit to Dublin, and the breeze was a factor, but I think probably in the most positive thing was that when Dublin did come back, Clare responded. So yeah, look, a job done for the league of 2026. I think it was I think the general consensus was that it was going to benefit Clare in the long term. We got the blood of a lot of players, but to get to the final and to win the final, can only add to the momentum already gained going into the Munster Championship.
Yeah, you mentioned it there, that strong start that Dublin had to the second half, and you look at the performance that Diarmuid Ryan gave in that second period. He got a couple of crucial scores there going down the stretch.
It did, yeah. Ryan Taylor. I think it would have been, Dublin at stages looked like they were in total control, but Clare never allowed them to get back level or anything like that. They always were able to respond, and as you said, Diarmuid Ryan Taylor, Mark Rogers, Shane Meehan, until Mark was injured, were able to respond. I suppose look at it as well. We lost Shane O'Donnell at half time as well, so that was a major loss in the game because he had been outstanding in the first half, but they overcame that as well. So he gave Ian Galvin that chance to come in and stake his claim, and I think acquitted himself very well.
Yeah, and that injury list kind of is the big issue coming out of the game. You mentioned O'Donnell and Rogers, but of course there's some big names that missed the game through injury altogether, weren't even in the matchday squad. Yeah,
look, that's the kind of the intrigue or the mystery is like, were they rested? Are they injured? I suppose, but look at from a management's point of view, and I think showed with Shane O'Donnell's substitution that they're not prepared to risk anyone that's not 100% fit because you risk an injury at this time of the year, it could set you back 2 or 3 games, and then that's your Munster Championship over. So I think the management, and again, look at it, just goes to back up, that players got their chance, throughout the league. And look at Niall O'Farrell, for a young guy that has come in, and I think Brian Lohan referenced that he has taken his chance, and there was a different challenge put to him yesterday, and he stood up. So that's another potential, in the for starting places. I think that's what management are looking for. But yeah, the injuries, Mark Rogers looked a bit dejected coming off the field. Now, he didn't look like he was limping, which might suggest to me that it was a soft tissue injury, maybe a pulled calf or something like that. So let's hope that because he's been really our outstanding player throughout the league, and his free taking has been exceptional.
And just on O'Donnell, when you have a player like that where he's only played 20 minutes up to that point in the league, to come on and give the performance he did in that first half, it's great to have him around the team, but it also, as you said, gives Lohan that chance to give other players a chance when you have a player that doesn't really need as much preparation as anyone and can still be as good as he always has been.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature, isn't he? He just can seem to step back in from whatever length of absence he's been out. And look at, I mean, he just caused pure terror in the Dublin defence when he was on the ball, either when he was scoring, passing, or he was fouled. And I think, something that we referenced, this new rule of the black card and penalty is going to terrorise full back lines. And when you have a player of, Shane O'Donnell's ability and the way he plays, that's going to be a real weapon going forward, because, the consequences of a foul there on an inside line, but it'll really, make defences make real hard decisions, whether to take one for the team, give away a penalty or a black card, or just do your best to try and defend it. So, always going into the championship, there's something new to be looking forward to, and I think this black card will cause headlines before the year is out.
Yeah, I suppose O'Donnell in particular, you mightn't see his impact on the scoreboard, but when they might drag him down further away from goal, so they're not giving away that penalty, but there's frees been tapped over the bar the whole time as well.
Yeah, and look, that's what he does. I mean, he has the ability to win his own ball. He has the ability to score, but I think more importantly, he has the ability to bring other players into the game, where he releases the pass and it's always at the right time. So the Shane Meehan, Mark Rogers, Tony Kelly, Peter Duggan, David Fitzgerald, all those know that, if they make that run and he has position, that he will give it to them. So, I mean, I suppose it's something you can coach. It's just his instinct that 9 times out of 10 he makes the right decision, for himself and his teammates. Look, it was lovely to have him back. He's a joy to watch. And I think, the general consensus was amongst the neutral media was that, they just love watching him and seeing him play.
And overall, I know there was a few concerns about the manner that Dublin came back into the game in the second half, but that first half performance was good, and some of the Dublin goals potentially were a bit soft, so there's positives to take and a couple of maybe some easy tweaks to make as well.
Yeah, and again, management are always looking to to find how to do things better. And okay, the black card penalty was what it was, but I think they will be disappointed. I thought on both occasions that it looked like our defence had things under control, and it just switched off for a minute. And around the square, around the goal mouth there, two low strikes through a crowded defence, gives the keeper no chance. And on top of that, then as well, you must remember that, as well as the 3 goals, they also created, and I thought, Ever Quilligan, made some great saves. So you would be looking to limit those goal scoring opportunities for the opposition, because throughout Division 1B, it'll step up a real level. In Munster Championship, when you look around at the sharpshooters up front from Limerick, Cork, Tip, Waterford, you're really going to have to limit and the mistakes and the concession of easy goals by, you're making your own mistakes. So that will be a work on. I think at the other end, I think I have been very impressed about the distribution of the ball to the inside line for O'Donnell, Meehan and Rogers. It's something that looked like that they've worked on. So look, I think it is positive, but as I said, it's going to ratchet up a couple of notches in a week's time.
Yeah, and on that, a bit of a talking point coming out of the 1A final, I suppose, for Clare people who stayed on, was the higher intensity that game was played at. Was that a concern for you?
Look, it is, because let's be honest, there's no point in trying to dress it up. 1B is completely, different to 1A, the intensity. But I do believe that, Clare have such a wealth of experience and, are battle hardened from previous Munster Championships, that they will know what to expect, but more importantly, they'll know that the levels they have been at, won't be good enough. So, it's a case of bringing it to a higher level. We are an experienced panel at this stage. If it had been a completely new team or a very inexperienced team, you would have concerns. But I don't believe, when you've the players like Conor Cleary, John Conlon, Ryan Taylor, Peter Duggan, that that they know what's coming down the line, and I think they'll know where they need to be at. And I think it is all being geared for a week's time. So Clare had a nice run into the championship, but the real business starts in a week's time.
I suppose it still was an extra game against a team that have lofty enough aspirations in their own right in the Leinster Championship, and it was a game free from any sort of shadowboxing, or if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought the benefit would be. Probably at the outset of the league, the results had gone our way. This game was always a strong possibility, as a 1B final, and going into the championship, being a Leinster team, and we had Wexford in the last round as well. Clare didn't need to. I think Clare just needed to do what they needed to do without looking at whether it's a Munster team or that. And I think that was to their benefit as well. Look at the 1A. Some of the games, were real, championship intensity and that. But look, it's over now. I think Limerick probably have 3 weeks to prepare. Cork, have to dust themselves down after a defeat to pick themselves up to go to the All-Ireland champions. So, whereas, Clare go in at home against Waterford on the back of a victory. And I think last year, one of the big downsides last year was that we could never gain any momentum coming into that Munster Championship. And while we manfully, played the matches and stuff, we were down 3 or 4 players. This year, hopefully, that we'll have a clear bill of health on the back of 7-8 games of a winning momentum that will hopefully get us one of those 3 places to get out of Munster.
And on paper, it looks to be the easiest of the Munster Championship games first as well, so it falls into place nicely that way. And Waterford at that stage won't have played a game for about a month, so there's going to be a bit of extra juice in the legs from a Clare point of view as well.
It is, yeah, but there, I think this is a real pressure game for Clare. We need to win our home games. We have 2 home games, and then we've 2 on the road to Thurles and Cork. So, I think we would want to be, I think the management will take it 1 game at a time. At home to Waterford is a massive, and I think that's where all the preparations would have led. The run-in, as we've spoken about, has been favourable to Clare. Parking the league form, where we were at in the league, but building towards 4 massive games, starting at home with Waterford.
You alluded to it there, as much as you want to park the league campaign, you are undefeated, 7 wins from 7. It is, I suppose, where Clare expected to be, but it's where you wanted to be at this time of year nonetheless.
It is, yeah. Nothing beats, getting on. I mean, losing is a habit. Winning is also a habit. And, it just is probably, it takes the pressure off. There's no sideshows, or you can just focus on what you're at, take it from game to game. But you can't underestimate, in team sport, the value of momentum and winning runs. I know management and players will be realistic, but I think it's very positive from a psychological point of view going in that winning is a habit and we don't want to lose. So I think it all adds for Clare's preparation, that winning momentum.
And just to wrap it up, you mentioned the likes of Niall O'Farrell who got their chance and played well in the 1B decider. I think there was 37 or so players used over the course of the campaign. Brian Lohan hardly has his starting 15 nailed down. There's surely a couple of places up for grabs.
Oh, there will be. And look, I think that's an issue that the management probably hoped that they would have. When you look at it, when you look at the players who were missed today, Adam Hogan, David McInerney, Sean Rinn, Tony Kelly, in my opinion, all things being equal, that they would be in a position to start, if fit. So, 4 guys potentially may or may not lose out. So, and you look at Niall O'Farrell, the big thing for him has been the transition from, attack to defence. You also have, Ronan Kilroy, who unfortunately missed the game due to, the tragic family loss. So, he's an addition there. The re-emergence of Rory Hayes at cornerback is going to put pressure on there. You've Dylan McMahon has played 3 or 4 games. The Lohans came back. Jack O'Neill is in the frame. Shane Meehan, Jack Kerwin, Ian Galvin. I know no one likes to be known or referenced as a super sub, but look, he has been really, really impactful when he's come on. So, again, it'll determine the injury list, whether they're prepared to take chances with a guy that's maybe 90%. I don't think they will. That's the benefit of building the panel. So I think anyone that will be playing will be 100% fit. But what a headache it is to the management, picking that first 15. And I suppose we all on the outside have all our own opinions, who should be in and who should be out. At the end of the day, it's only our opinions, and it's up to the management. And I suppose the management will look at that Munster Championship probably in isolation, game by game, but over how they manage the players' load and training and that over those four tough games coming up. So I think we have built the strength and depth, and it's just letting off the handbrake and going helter-skelter into this Munster Championship.
Tommy Guilfoyle there speaking to Clare FM's Dara O'Grady, and we will of course have much more build-up to come next week ahead of that showdown with Waterford. Alan Troy joins us now though for Greyhound Focus.
Clare FM's Greyhound Focus with Limerick Greyhound Stadium. Enjoy top-class racing at the Conn Danny Kirby Memorial each Saturday night, and check out our dinner or group packages.
Good evening and welcome to this week's Greyhound Focus. It was a great occasion at Galway Greyhound Stadium on Saturday evening last with the semi-finals of the Paul McKenna Memorial 5-5 yard stake and the second round heats of the Novice N2 350 yards. And to add to the list, the 8th contest of the evening was the Kieran Malloy European Welterweight Championship 5-5, which honoured the evening's special guest, Kieran Malloy, the recently crowned European boxing champion, who hails from Oughterard, and his family have a long and fruitful association with the sport and Galway Greyhound Stadium. And this featured race was won by Lissatook Pearl for Cora Clare's Seamus Breed and James McMahon. A homebred daughter of Ballymac Cashout and Lissatook Dolly, this was her 6th career success in a time of 29.61. In the second semi-final of the Paul McKenna Memorial, Flyers Penny prevailed once more for Tullabrack's Colin Fitzgerald and the Fitzgerald family with a 29-42 victory. And in doing so, this daughter of Signet Ace and Penny Lane Sheba made it 6 career wins from 7 starts, and she takes her place in tonight's final from Trap 2. While Flyers Penny was succeeding in Galway, Colin Fitzgerald was at Curraheen Park Stadium in Cork with Kennel comrade Termana Dream, who was competing in the semi-finals of the prestigious 1xBet Super Sprint 330-yard sweepstake, which carries a winner's purse of €5,000 to the winner. He ran a gallant second, beaten ahead by Solo and Go, who's actually owned by Kerry footballer the Clifford brothers, Paddy and David. And Dream has drawn Trap 4 for the final on Saturday evening. That's all for this week, folks. Slán agus Bannock.
Clare FM's Greyhound Focus with Limerick Greyhound Stadium. Enjoy top-class racing at the Conn Danny Kirby Memorial each Saturday night, and check out our dinner or group packages.
Alan, thanks very much indeed for that. We're back shortly here on Sideline View with the latest in our More Than a Club series.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Commission na Man with the television licence fee.
Now, for the latest part of our series of our club profiles, we're looking eastwards towards Bodyke, and delighted to have Club PRO Yvonne Hines and the chair Cayman Tracy with us to, I suppose, look back, look forward and look every kind of way that we can at the club. Cayman, I'll begin with yourself. The Bodyke club, one with a really, really storied history and a strong place in community.
Oh yeah, big time. The GA club supports both sides of the parish, the Dungrany and Bodyke side of the parish. I suppose we are a small parish of about 800 people or 850 people, and the GA grounds and the GA community are really at the centre of it.
And as I say, a very strong history as well, because you'll often hear people referencing that the match is on at the Evicted. And I think it's one of the most storied names and indeed well-known stories of the county in terms of the GA. You might just give us, I suppose, a flavour of it, the field of the Evicted.
Yeah, Partner the Shield Bath and the Evicted. I suppose it dates back to the late 1800s, 1887, I believe. The ground which the GA field is on was once owned by Colonel John O'Callaghan. He was a local landlord at the time, and there were a large number of households on the land, but he wanted to declare it to up rents. And back in the day, I suppose the people around the community would have been very strong-willed and wouldn't stand for it. And it was known as the Bodyke evictions, where bailiffs and police were brought in to try and get these people out of their homes, and they were met with fierce resistance by the people. So that's really where the name came from back in the day, and it led towards the Land Act. We'll say back in the 1800s, Michael Davitt visited, and it would have been seen as a pivotal part of that era, you know.
And Yvonne, I think the field itself, as we know it now, officially opened around the 2000 mark, somewhere around the millennium anyway. But I suppose given its place and its history within the club, an area that would mean a great deal.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the club is 135 years old this year, actually. It started in 1891, not in its current grounds, but in the 80s. There was a fear that the land would be bought by for housing or whatever, and a group of local people went around to every house and collected money and bought the field, and that's where the Evicted came from, the current field. So it's very much a community based enterprise, as it were, and we're all very proud of it and the developments over the years that have been done since then. It's a terrific club, it has grown and grown over the years despite demographic changes and everything. I have some facts. Intermediate championship was won in 1932, 1936, 1947. Senior hurling championship, they beat Clare Castle in the final. In 1975, 50 years ago, the Brian Boroughs won the senior county title with amalgamation with Tulla and Killaneny. You probably saw something around Christmas. They were celebrating it, and our own Sean O'Halloran was very much involved. Colin Wiley was the captain. So, there's a lot of history there and a lot to be proud of. And of course, Liam Doyle is our favourite son, as it were, of the club over the past 30 or 40 years. So yeah, we have a lot to be proud of and a lot to be proud of in the Evicted.
And just came in that 1975 victory, I know, is one that's I was out at the clubhouse there a couple of years ago speaking with Sean and one or two others, and those pictures adorn the walls. It's a victory that's hugely important to the club, not just because of obviously winning a championship, but I suppose you mentioned there demographics, and it's funny, 50 years later we're still having a similar conversation. The coming together of Killaneny, Tulla and Bodyke under the Brian Boroughs banner to win that, I mean, that was a great display of ingenuity as much as anything else.
Yeah, it was epic. When you think about, we say, senior hurling in East Clare, although it'd be considered strong. If you look at it, we'd say only 3 titles have gone underneath the Curve Oran Bridge back out to East Clare in the last 51 years, 2 by Fecal and 1 by Tulla, I think in 2007. So in its time, in 1975, it was huge. There was a number of like-minded people in Killaneny and Tulla and Bodyke parishes that knew that there was talent, and a lot of talent around, and went about putting a team together. I'm sure Colin Wiley was heavily involved. Pat Kirby, I think, was the player manager at the time. Dex Caggy was involved, say, from our own side. And we had a large number of players. I think we had 8 on the final team and 10 on the panel, say, in 75. It was massive. It was absolutely massive for our club. And I suppose it all culminated in 50 years there, which was celebrated on the 28th of December in Tulla. We had a fantastic evening over there, But I suppose senior titles don't come around East Clare too often. And we say between 1975 and 1947, they're 2 of the biggest ones in our parish anyway,
Absolutely, and of course there was intermediate success then in the 90s as well. Yvonne, you mentioned one man there that was the captain of that side, in Liam Horse Doyle, as he's affectionately known. And I suppose either side of that 96 victory, he gathered a couple of other medals as well. Indeed, I suppose he holds a great place of love within the Bodyke club.
He certainly does, and he's a great servant of the club, as are his family. His girls play camogie and his nephews play hurling for the club. And yeah, the Doyles are strongly associated, to be fair, with Bodyke, and it's great to have them all involved. We're all very proud of them, and they're something that our young people can look up to, particularly Liam. He's a credit absolutely to the club and to himself and to his own performance, both in the All-Irelands but at club level, because everything starts with the club, doesn't it? Begins and ends, as I heard on the radio yesterday. It begins and ends with the club, and he's very much associated with it, and we're always glad to have him involved.
And I suppose, Yvonne, you mentioned there family names, and no matter what club we speak to, there's strong generational family names in every club. But given the changing landscape and people moving in from outside and all the rest of it, just talk to me a little bit about maybe the GA club as being that hub that they'd first come to get integrated to their new surroundings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any small village, isn't it, or parish. The GA club, you can start. My own son started at the age of 4. It was actually a Doyle that brought him along. And yeah, he's still there. He's an adult player now, and I'm sure Cayman's family the same. It becomes part and parcel of their lives, and it's very much tribal, as we all know in Clare. Everyone is associated with their own club and their own team, but it forms friendships, and it puts down roots for everyone, and I think it's critical, and from that you build out, don't you? And you create a home for people, and you create a sense of belonging, and it's critical. And also for parents, it's a way of getting to know people. It's a way of building a community, and it's harder and harder to keep a community going these days. And I think the GA plays a pivotal role, particularly in rural Ireland, in keeping people together. I'm sure, Cayman, you probably agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to expand on that, Cayman, like I suppose the outsiders is maybe an outdated term, but like those people that maybe wouldn't have been traditional Bodyke or indeed Tuamgraney families down the years, you kind of need everybody rowing in, don't you, to keep the whole thing ticking over?
Oh, absolutely. GA clubs are run by volunteers, and you need an influx of people that are would have a common goal and delighted to put their shoulder to the wheel. We have fantastic groups working within the local community and the club. We have the Bodyke Community Together group there, a number of mothers and parents that have come together and done massive work, say, in our GA hall, and it's brought so many people together, even if it's just a place to meet. We serve teas and coffees and sweets and that sort of stuff on match days, and it's a great place where parents can meet. And we say when kids are training or blitzes or whatever, really is kind of a homely atmosphere, and it's really down to the people that are actually volunteering and helping,
And Yvonne, Cayman hits on a really interesting point there about maybe the next challenge for the GA to expand beyond being a place for young lads to train and being more of a community hub. Like, so that element of, if your young girl or young boy is training, that you can come down, have a cup of tea, meet the neighbour, have a chat, because those outlets are getting scarce in rural Ireland, aren't they?
They are, but I actually think rural Ireland is very good at it. I'm not from Bodyke or Tuamgraney myself. I'm not from too far away, but we're kind of doing what our own parents did by volunteering, and we're realising that if we don't do it, the community will fall away a little bit. It is very essential, and as Cayman said there, the Bodyke Community Together, the Tuamgraney Festival Committee, the Tidy Towns Bodyke Festival Committee. It's a small group of people who do an awful lot of work, and the GA is core to it in many ways, and I think it's a great base to build from upwards to keep people together. Especially because it's harder and harder for young people to stick around, and it gives a great sense of belonging, for people. And I hope that, I know there are voices at a national level. The GA is trying to, influence housing and infrastructure development and so on. I think that's critical, because if we start losing our rural communities or letting them slip away, then you lose a lot more, don't you?
Absolutely, and just on that, Kim, and like when people look at where the Bodyke pitch is located, and if they know the area, like we'll say Chumgraney is almost at crossroads to Killaloo and Scariff, and you're just there before it. You do need something to anchor. You need a reason for your young fella to stay at home and keep contributing.
Oh yeah, like we are very lucky where we're positioned within the county. We're 25 minutes from Limerick, 25 minutes from Ennis, 30 minutes from Limerick or from Shannon. Even Galway's only a stone's throw away at 50 minutes. So we're very centrally positioned, and I suppose our biggest issue in relation to the GA club going forward is going to be rural depopulation. Places for our young families to go and say to set up homes. We just don't seem to have the infrastructure at the moment to support building and we'd say houses for our young people, you know.
And Yvonne, talking of infrastructure, just at the evicted field itself, like anybody that's been there, they'll find a savage hurling surface, a brilliant new Astro. I say new, the last 10 years or thereabouts, whenever it was built, and obviously the clubhouse has expanded as well. So it's a real hub. Fantastic facilities there.
Absolutely. Yeah. We must pay testament to Sean O'Halloran for his field maintenance there now. He's doing a fine job there, along with a group of dedicated volunteers with him. We built the Astro in around 2018, and it's a great place for particularly winter training. In the last couple of years, we've expanded our clubhouse to include a community gym now that is open for the community to join along with our players, and it's a great resource. This is something that is required now, strength and conditioning as part of the for the course for all adult and indeed juvenile teams. And as we mentioned, Cayman mentioned, the Bodyke community together have been very supportive to us in kind of upgrading the facilities at the clubhouse itself. We've recently repainted, resurfaced the floors, sanded everything. The volunteer element, this is all volunteers, has been tremendous and is testament to the community, to be honest.
And that's it. It came when you see those projects taken on, delivered and supported, it kind of makes you feel that, yes, we have a real strong backing here, doesn't it?
Oh, very much so. We're very proud of our GA community and everyone that gets involved, in whatever way, even if it's something small like selling lotto tickets or whatever. They all realise that just goes back to the community, whether it's buying pairs of shorts for under 14 teams, whether it's paying for buses for kids for away matches, or even to support our adult teams in preparing for championships and stuff like that. There is a massive sense of community. If you look at, even the structure of our committee, we have an awful lot of female members on our committee that have young children, have jobs, and are still only mad to support and to do their best for the community, And I'd just like to say Sean O'Halloran has done massive work over there himself down through the years, and Sean would be synonymous with, say, be one of the few people that I know that would have junior, intermediate and senior medals with his club. So a lot of thanks to him, but it's not just Sean, it's everyone that gets involved, even in the smallest ways. Selling lotto tickets, as I said, whether it be the Poker Classic or Golf Classic or whatever, and sponsorship, it all goes to help keep the lights on and support the community as well,
And Yvonne, your own role then as PRO, I would imagine that if we were to speak to somebody 10, 15 years ago, the responsibilities and the manner in which you'd have to go about it would vary wildly. Always finding new ways to engage and deliver the message of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very well paid, as you probably well know, and Cayman is on a huge remuneration as well. It's actually I was involved in previous years in the finance area as well, and it's actually probably easier now with social media to be able to get the message out. But I think you do have to cater for all ages. We have a very strong WhatsApp group, and we put up our scores, and people who wouldn't be on social media really like that, but then we cater to the X audience and the Instagram and all the rest of it. So yeah, it is different, but you have to keep people informed and engaged, And they do engage, and they do send back messages and say, thanks very much, it was great to get the scores, or to know what's coming up, or whatever it is. We were lucky enough to be able to put up all the league fixtures now in the last week. We have dates, provisional dates at least for them. So they really appreciate it. They're able to work out their calendars, and everyone is looking forward to the year ahead now. It starts early, it finishes late. Our last game last year was the 15th of December when the lads won the under-16 championship with Broadford, which was terrific. So it goes on a long time, the year now.
Yeah, it certainly does. Cayman, final word to you, just on an adult sense this year. What's the hopes and dreams for Bodyke 2026?
Well, I suppose it's a year that's finishing in the sixth. We were lucky enough to win intermediate titles in 36, 46, 96. You never know. Maybe 2026 might get lucky with a Premier Intermediate win,
I'll tell you what, that was kind of a loaded question, Cayman, because I was just listening to something before we came to chat, and the man you mentioned there, the most unassuming, underrated, brilliant man in Clare GA, I think, in Sean O'Halloran, he mentioned something very, very similar, the power of six. So it's obviously something you're holding close out there.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to be involved in 96 and to watch Liam Doyle was a current All-Star at the time, a man with an All-Ireland medal, wearing a Bodyke jersey with the Cobblers written on front of it, and standing Parky Garney below on the bridge that day. And that was one of the proudest moments I've ever experienced, especially as a Bodyke GA man. Love to have something like that happen again, and hopefully Colin Malloy and his lads could maybe step up and produce something big this year.
Fantastic.
You can't deny their commitment anyway to it. They're definitely giving it all so far this year.
Brilliant. Well, listen, continued success to all of Bodyke, and thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
This feature, More Than a Club, is funded by Commission Naman with the television licence fee.
And we have lots more clubs to talk to as well over the coming weeks. And we will have more reaction to this week's midweek games on Monday evening's Sideline View review show, where we'll reflect on the under-20 hurling and football, along with this weekend's Munster Minor Hurling Championship game against Limerick. That one taking place tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock in Zimmer Park, Kissogue. We'll also wrap up the local soccer action on Monday, because the weather and other factors are likely to come into play with this weekend's fixture list once more. So we'll look back on what did go ahead on Monday evening. For now though, keep it tuned here to Clare FM, where the West Wind is up next. Enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.